So I had a message from one of you asking me to talk about the things I wish I knew when I started that I didn't, that I do know now. Welcome to In the Car with Clint, number 36. It's almost my age. Ugh. So I had a message from Brad, and he asked me to tell you some of the things that I wish I knew at the start that I know now that I didn't know then. I think that's the way that it was asked. And I got thinking about it and I was like, oh yeah, I might write a list and I'll make a video and, do a long form video, and I'm not going to do that. So I figure today I kind of didn't really know what to talk about. So I thought, well, I probably should respond to some of the questions in the comments because that's what I've asked you to give me, and now I need to give you some answers. So the first thing, and I'm just going to kind of run some off and kind of get to 6 minutes and then we're done. So I guess the first thing that comes to mind around business, and you would have heard this quote before, that people overestimate the amount of work they can get done in 12 months and underestimate the amount of work they can get done in 10 years. Now you can scale that down and up as much as you want, to a day, to an hour, to a month, to a week, to whatever it is. But I think for me, I've got eyes bigger than my stomach, and a lot of the times I'm not planning far enough forward. Like for a long time, probably the first 7 or 8 years of running a business, I was only really planning that day or the next day, and we were talking about goals, around long-term goals, but I wasn't a strong goal writer, and I wasn't writing them down and reviewing them every day, and so I think to take that lesson away from it, it's really important for you to clearly write down your goals and the things that you want to achieve in life and in business, and review them regularly. It doesn't have to be daily, but have them written down. Like you write them down or type them up and print them put them up on the wall, put them in a book, have a vision board, whatever makes you happy, whatever feels right, whatever's achievable, and review them. But give yourself a realistic but a stretch timeline. Like initially, I think when we first started, my business partner and I had a goal to retire in 2018, which was our 10-year anniversary of the business, and we had it written down, and we were going to have 3 shops, and we we're going to be millionaires, and it was written down. Now, goals are going to change. They don't have to be set in stone, they don't have to be set in concrete, but it's important to have goals, and it's even more important to reset once you've achieved those goals, and that was something that I have struggled with in the past, hence why I now have a goal to do $100 million in annual turnover. It's going to take me a long time to get there, and it just gives me I guess protection that I'm not going to have achieved that goal too quickly and then go out on a celebration dinner and not come back for 3 years. Done that before. What else have we got? Not everyone that says they will support you when you start your business is going to support you when your business is started. I had, everyone is a well-wisher, and I'm gonna start my business. They're like, oh, cool, man, give me a buzz when you start, we'll give you some work. They're not going to. And it's interesting that not scientifically, but the ones that said they would support me, 80% didn't and 20% did, and the ones I never thought would come across or help me with my business did. So you can't take promises from people to the bank. You need to almost assume that if you've got 10 customers that you promise they're coming across, 2 will. That probably leads me into the event space. We have a lot of events, barbecue, breakfast and all that kind of thing, training days. We found that 30 to 40 to 50% of people that say they're coming to your event won't come. So you kind of need to be prepared for that. What else? I always thought that banks, once I got to a certain level in banking, would give a shit about me. And every time I kind of climb to the next stage, and I'm banking, $1 million a month now, they still don't give a shit. So try not to hang any success on having a good relationship with a bank. I'm sure some people do. I know my dad had a great relationship with his banker for a long time, but eventually the person that you might be dealing with will retire or leave, and you go back to being a number with the bank. Now, you might be a big number with the bank, but you're still just a number with the bank. What else? Money talks, bullshit walks. I think until you spend a very large amount of money with companies that are either shareholder owned or you can't have a relationship directly with the director, the only way that you will have any respect from the company as a greater company is to spend a lot of money. We try to develop relationships, and I remember when we first started out, I thought I was an absolute baller buying a pallet of drip tube and trying to negotiate a price on 20 rolls, and now I laugh because we buy a semi-trailer of drip tube, and I can now appreciate where we were at back then. But if you want to be taken seriously by these companies, it's not completely dissimilar to a bank, and the more you spend, the higher up the chain you'll get, but ultimately corporates and big companies are really only going to protect their own interests, and it's very easy to blame someone else when there's no face on that person, similar to when you apply for a loan and they say no. You want to talk to the person that said no. There is no person that said no. The computer said no. So there's that. What else? One of the things that I did in the early stages that I probably don't do as much now, and I'm glad that I don't, is I borrowed to buy a lot rather than saving to buy. I've always financed my vehicles, and I still do. I kind of treat the rental cost, I treat the loan cost of a vehicle like a rent, like a building. But really, if you want to build true wealth, you don't want to use the banks. Now, I remember a banker, like when I was talking to the bank once, because I've always kind of wore my heart on my sleeve and told the bankers how I feel about them. And I was like, how can you not, censored myself, how can you not just get this done? And they're like, mate, 80% of the bank's customers don't borrow money from us. They bank with us. And a lot of businesses have cash. And I went to buy a vineyard in 2014, a commercial loan. I was trying to get all this money. And I kind of like brokered the deal myself because I was getting so pissed off with the lack of interest from the brokers. Like, it wasn't a walk in the park, so they weren't interested. And I went and met with Dion, my accountant, who you are very much aware of, but his boss, Eddie, who's like legendary accountant space. I'm sure he'll love me saying that. And he said to me, there's two types of people in business. There's people that borrow to buy, and there's people that save to buy. You need to stop being a person that borrows to buy, and you need to start being a person that saves to buy. And it kind of changed my mindset around business. I'm still not completely there, but the more you can save along the way, the better options it gives you. And there is nothing worse than having to sit down and try and borrow money, either from family or from an institution or from an external investor. It's just a process you have to go through, and it's a much nicer process to know that you've got that money in the bank and then you can go do it. Now, obviously, I'm growing really fast and I still have to borrow, but it's becoming a less and less of a concern. So yeah, ideally, if you can save to spend rather than borrow to spend, that's a good one. What else didn't I know? Not everyone is going to work as hard as you in your business. I was an employee before I became a director, and I was a really good employee. I still believe that I would be a good employee. I don't know how employable I'd be, but I think I could transition back if I had to. I think a lot of people that own large corporations and entrepreneurs, they're like, I could never work for someone ever again. I probably could. I'd probably be a challenging employee for the board, and I'd probably argue a lot, but I think my results would speak for themselves and they'd kind of leave me alone. I'd need full autonomy. And, when I left working for someone, I had this attitude that everyone else should work as hard as I did when I worked for someone, and it's just not the case. People are going to, if you get a 0.7 of your effort or a 0.8 of your effort, you've got to remember that it's not their business. They're just working for you, and not everyone is going to be an alpha dog slayer player that just kills it. and goes out there and dominates. And to be honest, if they do, they're probably short of you having a really good scheme of support for them financially and emotionally and training wise, they might end up starting their own business. So I think it's good to be aware that not everyone is going to work as hard as you may have when you worked for someone, and that's just normal and that's okay. If people have sick leave, they are going to use it. Whether or not they use it genuinely or not genuinely, the reality is you're best off just knowing that the 10 days of leave that they have in Australia could get used, and that you're always going to have someone off sick. We've got 30 staff, which means we've got 300 possible sick days that they can use, give or take. Obviously we've got some casuals. And so the reality is we don't even trade 300 days a year with all the public holidays the government give us. And you know, the Sundays, obviously Water isn't a 7-day-a-week business, so there's always going to be someone off sick, and that's just life. So you probably want to plan for that. I never did. I remember as an employee, I never took sick days. I'd go to work missing an arm, half dead with my eyes hanging out of my head, either from genuine sickness or from self-indulgence, and that was just what I did. Not everyone's like that, so that's fine too. Trying to think of what else there is. This is just obviously off the top of my head. I haven't actually prepared for it, so it might end up becoming another. I might do another video like this as I think of more. So yeah, that's probably it for now. That's some stuff that I probably didn't know, and you know what? I don't really care that I didn't know it. I think the whole process of running and growing a business is the learning, and a lot of times I feel like I'm going too slow, but I don't need more profit for me. Like, I don't need to buy anything more. I mean, there's a few things I want, but it's not urgent. And so ultimately it doesn't, like, it's okay, and it's just grow at this speed, because I get to play this game of business every day and I love it. Like, I've just come back from some holidays, and my wife noticed that I was more excited to be going back to work than I was to be going on holidays. Now, I can't apologize for that. It's how I am, and I love operating. I love the strategic direction of a business owner. I love being able to, you know, test and play and do all these cool things every day, and I'm really grateful that that I'm allowed to do that. So yeah, hopefully that's helped some of you. I appreciate you taking the time to watch me in the car with Clint. 13 minutes is gonna hurt some of you. Maybe you'll need to save this one for the weekend. Obviously, as you've seen, if you've got questions or comments, I will respond to them. So stick them in the comment section below, or send me a DM, and I will talk to you very soon. Be kind to each other and have a wonderful day. If you're in South Australia today, it's looking good.